guys, and welcome to the Reborning with BC Heat Set Paint tutorial. This is part 1. In this video, we're just going to kind of jump right in and get to work. This is definitely a more advanced video. I will show a little bit of mixing and stuff, but if you are at a beginner level, I definitely recommend doing the Reborning for Beginners series before this one. I have Leandra here by Doris. I can never pronounce her last name. I'm going to put it on the screen, but DMH. And I love this baby. I do have a belly plate that we're going to be painting along with Leandra. The vinyl is a decent match. This belly plate did not come with Leandra. Doris did not sculpt it. This belly plate is a Bountiful Baby belly plate. It is the olive belly plate, and it says it's for 18 to 22 inches. I'm going to give you guys a good little tip. This belly plate does not work for 18 to 22 inch babies. But it is amazing for like 19, 20 inch babies. It is my favorite belly plate for that. All right, so let's just jump right in here. The products that I have right now are BC Thinning Medium, BC Liquid Medium, and I have my regular solvent odorless mineral spirits. The brand that I use is Clean Strip. For mixing, there's a few different ways that you can mix. You can mix with thinning medium and solvent. You can mix with just liquid medium, or you can mix with liquid medium and solvent. Beatrice, who is the creator of this paint line, has said that you can paint with just solvent. I have found that it can be a little bit grainy, so I prefer on this one not to do just solvent. I feel like it works really well with this liquid medium. If you have Exodus thinning oil, you can use that instead of this as well, if you just want to get the paints. So the very first thing that we are going to do is veins. So I'm going to mix up a little vein color here. This is turquoise green. And I just need a cleaning well over here. And I'm going to actually mix this on a plate instead of in my palette, but I will keep my palette for cleaning right there. So I'm just going to take a bit of this pigment here. I always do that. I missed the well. Clean that out. And I'm going to add some ultramarine blue. On like a really, really light Caucasian baby, you could probably use this turquoise on its own for veins. We're going to do kind of a little bit of a deeper newborn skin tone, not just born, like not fresh out of the womb with acrocyanosis, but it is going to be more of a newborn look. So I want my vein mix to be just a little bit darker. So I'm going to take the liquid medium and I just want to add a couple drops. I thought I opened, this one's not opened. I'm going to grab my other bottle here that is open. So I'm just going to add a little bit in there and let's just start mixing this up a bit. And that is a good color right there. We're just going to go ahead and test it. I have a small brush. This is a number 4 round, but it's not a real 4. It's a micro brush. So I'm just going to test on the top of the head here. And that's a bit light. We need it to be a little bit darker here. So let's just rinse this out again. I'm gonna add a bit more blue, and then I'll add a little bit more green as well. I really like, these are very, very well pigmented. I will say they're not as pigmented as Genesis, but you don't need a ton of paint like you know, all of the new lines. Some are less pigmented, some are more. This is definitely going to be one of the more pigmented. All right, let's try this really quickly. All right, that right there is perfect. So we're going to go ahead, we'll do head veins first. Sorry, I just noticed a little bit something. I did wash this kit really well. I did not prime it. I looked it over. I don't see any areas where I feel like I need primer. But it's been sitting on my table for a couple days over the weekend and has a little random dust lint stuff. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. We'll do veins here. I want to pounce them out. You do not want to wipe, but you just want to press down hard and lift up. And I know I give this little tip all the time in almost all of my videos, but veins are something a lot of people struggle with. If you're not sure if your veins are too dark or not, the absolute best test for a regular vein is if you can see it when you're looking at it, but if you take a photo, you cannot see it, it's perfect. If you can see it very brightly in photos, that means that it is likely not going to be coverable during your paint layers. It's always better to go too light, because you can always touch up and make them darker. You cannot make them lighter. This vein is a little bit thick, so I'm just gonna wipe along the side there and we'll blend that out. And I'm just kind of doing some random little small ones. You want to make sure that you have good movement. You don't want like a straight line. They don't have to be too squiggly either. And you really want to make sure that you kind of break them up in the middle. You don't want it to be visible from here to here. You want some areas of separation just to look more natural. I do want these veins here on the head to be just a little bit more visible, because I do want them to peek through the hair. So I'm just kind of gonna touch up some of these little ones, do them just a tiny bit darker. If you don't want pronounced veins in the temple area, do not make yours that dark. So we're going to go ahead, we will do these little veins. For channel members, you can go to my private members only Facebook group. And there are vein charts under the guide section for placement. I just want to pounce the end of that. You do not want to see where a vein starts and where it stops. You want it to just kind of fade in and out. Let me do a little one. She has this like really great little, it's very, very subtle, but a little raised spot on the side of her neck there. So I'm just going to put a little vein right there. All right, that looks good to me. And let's move on to the arms. Go up kind of to in between the fingers. I had that little thing right there. The back of the hand is a great place to get a little bit of pronounced vein if you want. I really like doing little finger veins as well. I just think it's a really great, like high-end little realism detail. You can kind of look at your own hands and see, you know, what fingers do your veins show up on. Usually it's like the thumb right here, the pointer finger on the side, the little pinky finger on the outside. I love doing these veins here. You just want to make sure that you do them very, very thin. And you want to pounce these ones a little bit more gently because you do want them to show up. Sometimes when you pounce, I know you guys probably can't see this, maybe a little bit. So I pounced this vein right here, and I have this little spot on my sponge there. And then I pounced over there and it kind of transfers it. That's kind of a nice little, I don't know, a little shortcut tip. I get asked that a lot. People kind of freak out. They're like, oh, you know, I pounced my vein and it put a line over here. Well, you know, that's okay. We're only drawing a few veins. There are so many veins in the human body. If you get a couple extra little lines, it really just adds to realism. I mean, if you don't like them, you just wipe it off. But I personally like when I'm able to do that because it usually gives like a micro vein that I necessarily wouldn't be able to get myself. Let's get this a little right there. All right, that looks good for that one. This one should be kind of like a little Y. To the brachial artery there on the inside of the arm, which is definitely a more pronounced vein on babies. This one is great right here because there is that little raised line where there would be a vein naturally anyways. So we'll just paint it right on that line. Going up to the elbow there. Gonna make that one just a little bit darker. That looks good. I love doing feet veins. They are some of my favorites. Kind of go up to the toes, just like on the fingers. Do these little ones. If you look on the inside of your foot here, there are so many veins there. So those are like fun ones that really add a lot of realism. We'll go right up the side of the toe, just like the on the fingers, and we'll do that on the pinky toe as well. And just kind of do not as many on the outside, but just a little bit for realism. And right over that ankle bone, there's a nice big one there naturally. And we'll do right behind the knee as well. All right. And we're going to do the same exact thing. Well, it won't be exactly the same, but similar on the other side. I don't want it to be a carbon copy, but obviously I do kind of want to stay within the guidelines, like where are there actually, veins that you would be able to see. Like I wouldn't do, a super bright one right up the shin or something. But you don't need to do the exact same ones on, both feet. if you want to do some that are a little bit different. Just kind of following some of these sculpted lines that are already on there, little raised bits where a vein just really wants to be. And these little micro ones that I want to be visible, I am pouncing them, but I'm pressing harder at like the beginning and end where they fade in and out. I do want the center part there to be a bit visible. Oh, that looks so good. The sculpting on these feet are absolutely amazing also. Use my sponge to kind of just transfer over a little bit more back there. There's one here on both sides that goes in front of the knee there. So I'm just going to do those ones. And up the thigh there. All right, now my favorite place to vein besides feet are belly plates. You can definitely get away with more pronounced veining on belly plates. So I'm going to start with this little one here. It's a nice one that goes out. Kind of break that up in the center a little bit. There are a lot that come off the nipple, but I don't want to like overdo that. So I usually just do a couple that are fairly pronounced in that area. You have like a good abdominal one right there if you're thinner anyways. I used to, I do not anymore. Well, I have them, but not visible. And you kind of go up a little bit to where the collarbone would be. All right, so for now, I'm very happy with veining. We might touch these veins up later. Oh, I do want to talk really quickly for baking belly plates. This is just a regular hand towel. Ideally you want a white one. I couldn't find a white one. I have a light pink one, but the most important thing is that you do not have a dark one. So you just kind of want to roll it up like this and then set your belly plate on it. That is so your belly plate has some support when it's baking. When it bakes, it gets flat. So you don't want that to happen or it can split. If you find like this one has just barely enough, you can use whatever you want. You could just grab a couple more, like a washcloth or two, and just fill it. Like this is good right now with that washcloth. When I put it into the oven to bake, it's going to get flat a little tiny bit, but it has something to support it, so it's not going to split. All right, so now let's go ahead. We're going to do some blue shading. And I want like an actual blue shading. So I'm going to use ultramarine blue. I don't want to use what we just used there. And I guess I'll just mix a normal amount because we are going to use it later anyways. That may be too much. We're going to have to find out. So I'm just going to put some of this thinning oil in there. And some more. I really, really love this thinning oil. I will end up mixing with some of the thinning medium as well, just so you guys can see how that works. But I'm not a big fan of using mediums because it does add a lot of sheen to your work, which makes it very, very hard for me to see like where I'm actually at. So I was just thrilled when Beatrice released this. All right, so I'm just going to get a little round brush here. And a filbert brush for blending there. So first of all, let's go ahead. Let's just try this. I want to put it on an easy spot for me to wipe it off if needed. So we're just going to go right above the brows there. And it's a touch dark, honestly. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to match that forehead shading there, but I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more of this. Add a touch more. I have found with the BC paint, and I hesitate saying this depending on your skill level, but it does cure a little bit lighter than when you put it on. So if you accidentally do, find it looks dark, too dark, wet, and you bake it, it will lighten up a little bit. Like those people who are more experienced, who use Genesis for a long time, know what that lightening looks like. And, after a while, if I want it to look like this cured, this is how dark it needs to look when I apply it. That obviously takes a lot of time and experience. So, I would say like starting off, if it looks too dark, you don't know how much it's going to lighten during curing, I would fix it before you bake. But it is one thing that I noticed. I did some tests blushing with it, and I thought, oh, that's going to be way too dark. And then I baked it, and it actually ended up being perfect. And I'm just going to do just a little bit more shading here. And you guys could see me, I'm sure, but I'm carrying it down and then just over the eyelids as well. We're going to do a layer inside the nostrils. I need a little bit of a smaller brush here. We're just going to go around the nose. And I'm going to blend that down here. just for a little shading in that area there. And I'm going to take my sponge. I don't want it like all the way to the lips, so I'm just kind of pouncing to remove that. And I'm actually going to get just a little bit off the nose too. We'll go ahead and inside of the philtrum there. Underneath the lip. And she has some great little dimple area there that is perfect for blue shading. We're going to do inside of the ear and just around the ear crease as well. And you just really want to blend that out. I have definitely found, I did like quite a bit of kind of testing before this. It's really hard, you know, doing these tutorials with new paint lines that you're not used to using. So, you know, you want to practice a little bit first so that I know what I'm doing when I'm showing you guys how to do it. But I have found with the thinning, the liquid medium, it really helps with like granule, like dirty looking creases. It keeps your paint nice and smooth. It just keeps everything looking nice and clean. One thing to keep in mind with this liquid medium, I don't know for sure if it is an organic or a synthetic oil, but it does not cure until you bake it. So it's not really going to air dry at all or flash off. So you just want to be mindful of that and make sure, you know, when you're finished painting, you put it in the oven, you're not messing around with it, doing a bunch of stuff, because you could possibly smear some of your work later because it is going to be a little bit wet still. It also does not have a heat set agent in it. Meaning that it cannot be used as a primer, and it doesn't offer like more adhesion qualities. It is specifically just for thinning the paint. It does work very well for that, but I do want to make you guys aware of that aspect. All right, I'm happy with the blue shading there. Let's go ahead. We're going to do the little triangle area inside of the palm there. And let's go ahead. We'll do a little blue crease layer as well. Just in between the fingers. And where we drew those veins up, I just want to accentuate that right where the fingers meet with a little bit of extra blue shading. If you get it like on the fingers like I did, just go ahead, wipe them, clean them, pounce them off. And I am just pouncing with a clean, dry brush. I'm assuming you guys all know that already, but I really just have to say, I absolutely love this. On so many other sculpts that I paint, when they have the hand like this, I find that this area, it'll be just totally, there is nothing there. It's like it doesn't exist. This one actually goes in behind the finger here with the creases. So it looks so realistic. I did not notice that until right now, but it looks really, really great. Okay, we're going to do a little bit shading right there and just a little bit right here. And again, that little triangle area. And the only creases I'm doing on here are the fused fingers. And then again, just that area right where the veins kind of came up and met between the fingers. Went a little overboard there. Okay. Just a little bit on that inside where there would be a good amount of veining going on. For the feet, we're going to do like this little triangle area there. I don't really want to smear all my wonderful little creases, but I just want to get kind of that outside in the middle of the foot, just a little bit of shading there. Just like on the fingers, I just want to do right in between the base of the toes, and then we'll do the creases on the fused toes as well. And I do want to clean those off. Toes are a lot harder to avoid smearing it anywhere when you're doing the cleanup. And we'll do a little bit here. We already did the veins back there, so we don't need a lot of shading back here, but we'll just do a little bit. And we'll also do just a little bit below the ankle bones where it's just a little bit thinner. And I just want to be really careful and make sure that I'm blending inside the creases with my dry brush really well. These creases are really nice and deep, which means that I won't have to do probably a ton of crease work inside because they already look nicely shadowed on their own. But I do want to make sure that I don't ruin those wonderful looking, natural looking creases by making them look dirty. All right, that looks good. On this belly plate, we're not really doing any blue shading, but I'm just going to go ahead and do the belly button crease. And we could do this line, I guess, as well. I'm going to water this way down. And then we'll go ahead and just do a nipple layer. And it was requested that I do a belly plate. Somebody really wanted a belly plate tutorial. The most important thing about painting a belly plate is you don't paint belly plates on their own. You paint them while you're painting the baby that they go with. It would kind of be like, which I see people do, and I'm always like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Why would you do that? But like when people paint the head and then they paint the limbs separately, and obviously they don't match colors. They have, because you're painting them separately, like you want to paint them all together. Almost every single paint layer that you put on that baby, you're going to want to put on the belly plate, even if it's just like, a couple little tiny things. You really want those colors to match. All right. So we're just going to do one more thing here. And that is going to be capillaries. This is BC Heat Set Lip Blush and Nail. I usually use Pyrrole Red. To do this, they do not have a Pyrrole Red. So we are going to go ahead and I want to check this color and just kind of see if this is going to be what I want to use. I just need to get my brush here a little bit wet. I'm just going to get some of this paint here from the lid. Okay, this is a very nice color for capillaries. So Leander has these very, very squinted closed eyelids. I don't know that you can see them really up close, but this is like the top of her eyelid. I mean, this is her eyebrow. The actual lid part that we would normally do almost all the capillary on is squeezed tightly closed. So I just want to do really, really natural, limited capillaries. I don't want to do too much. So we're just going to do a little bit kind of going down into that squinty space. And I'm just taking my brush here so that I can gently, gently tap the very top of those capillaries, just so that they blend out. You don't see them starting. I cannot wait to give this girl like Lanugo and Milia. Oh, she's fantastic. I love this sculpt so much. All right, so we're gonna do some capillaries here on the inside of the ear. And same thing, I drew them on. I'm taking my brush and I'm just tapping the edges. This brush is like slightly damp still. It's not wet. But it's just a tiny bit damp to smudge that color. Now wet my brush just a little bit again, get some more pigment off of here. All right, that looks nice. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So yeah, this lip blush nail is a great color for capillaries. And you know what? Why don't we just do a little lip layer with it right now as well before we put this baby in the oven. The more little things that we can add before baking, the better. This paint definitely dissolves better if you put the paint in first. I'm not used to doing that. I'm used to using Genesis where I like fill up my well and then just put some paint in. So I'm going to have to get used to that a little bit. I mean, it will mix in if you mix it, but it's just so much easier if you put the paint in first, kind of spread it in your palette and then add the thinner. All right, there we go. And we'll just go ahead and do just a regular layer on here. And, you know, I'm actually going to need to look at Leandra, some photos of her. The way that her lip is sculpted, I'm not sure how far to go down to paint on the bottom. So I just want to look at some reference photos before doing too much on her lips and kind of see what others have done and what looks best. All right, there we go. So we have undertones, veins, shading, and capillaries. And you can't see it on camera. I could see it in person, which means it's pretty much perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and bake this. This will be the end of the first video. The rest of the series, as always, is going to be member only. So you can join the tutorial series access level. It's only $8.99 a month and gives you access to all of my full tutorial series. All right, you guys, I'll see you in the next one.